In this video, I'll show you how I sublimate onto a MagSafe phone case like this one. I'll go step by step and we'll start off going over all the equipment that we will need. So to start with, of course, you need a MagSafe phone case. So this one, you might be able to see the magnets in there if I take off the insert. Yeah, so you'll be able to see the ring of magnets and the alignment magnets there. And MagSafe ones have an acrylic sublimation sheet which will then stick onto the case itself. Okay, so that's the case itself, and you might be wondering, where do I get the case? Loads of places. You can look up your local sublimation blank supplier. There's of course Amazon, eBay. I got this one from AliExpress in China. It takes about less than a week for it to arrive, which is really good. My tip would be really to test first. So just get a couple, try them out, because of course the quality will vary depending on the manufacturer or the supplier, what stock they carry. And then it's just down to your preference to design, and we'll see how this one turns out. Then we're going to need the printer with which to make our photo print with. So this is an Epson L805 EcoTank. It's old school because the ink tank itself sits outside the printer, but of course the newer models, which you're probably more familiar with, the inks go inside the printer. My recommendation would be to use a converted EcoTank over a dedicated dye sublimation printer, because I've used both, and what you'll get with those dedicated printers is you're locked into buying their ink or their dye tanks, and it gets really expensive, and they tend to run maintenance in the background. Every so often it will put a bit of ink through the print head, and that, you know, even if you're not using printer, it empties your cartridges, and it really costs a lot. And I found the print quality is just subpar compared to what you get from these EcoTanks. If you notice I said converted, often people think, well, I've got an inkjet printer, can I just use that for dye sublimation? No, not if you've got standard inks in your printer, then you can't use those for sublimation. You need to get a fresh printer, and instead of using the normal inks, you put in dye basically, which is for sublimation. And I've always used this Inktech Sublinova ones that you see here, the 6 colours for this printer, and they work really well, and I've been really happy with the results. So the next item you'll need is sublimation paper. Yeah, you need sublimation paper, so don't use standard copy paper. I think it will work, but it's best to use the paper that's designed to transfer the dye onto your phone case or whatever it is you're sublimating onto. So this I use is their style paper, and it's for hard things like mugs, phone cases, photo panels and stuff like that. But you can get ones that are more suited for soft things like t-shirts and bags. And for this project, I've cut an A4 sheet into 2 A5 sheets, but for a phone case, you can probably cut it into 3 and save that way. So this paper has, I think the new ones, they'll have a print on the back to show you which side is the back, but if your paper doesn't have anything on the back, then the nice pure white smooth side will be the top that you print on, and the back is usually a bit off-white and not as silky smooth. So that's how you can tell. You have to look quite closely, and I have printed on the wrong side before, so it's worth just double checking before you print. It just saves your paper and ink. Next up, you'll need heat-proof glove. Usually I don't bother, but it's best not to burn your fingers. Some heat-resistant tape. So this is in a dispenser that cuts off handy little pieces. Some what do we call this, butcher paper, kind of like uncoated greaseproof paper, baking parchment kind of stuff. And we'll put this on top of the panel that we'll be sublimating onto, so that any dye that escapes doesn't stick to the heating plate of the heat press and spoil it. And a heat-proof mat to put your, once you sublimated onto your panel, just to rest it on here to let it cool. And then last but not least, you'll need a heat press itself. And today, because of the panel and the case is quite small, I'm using this kind of mini heat press, again from Ink Experts, but use any heat press that you like, of course. So if we take our panel, now depending on what phone it's for, they're all going to vary in terms of the size and cutout. So I'm going to measure this particular one. I'm making this for the iPhone 14, yeah, standard one. So it's 7 centimeters wide by say 14.5 high. The first thing we need to do is create a template for the phone case size insert. So here, this one's 147 by 72 millimeters for the iPhone 14 case that we're doing today. And so get your photo, and the green rectangle is the safe zone where the camera cutout is. So you want to kind of put any people or animals in the photo, make sure that they're kind of out of this danger zone. And yeah, so now I'm just sizing for the actual phone cutout, which is about 40 millimeters by 40 millimeters. And then this just helps you visualize how how the layout would be. And then now I'm just getting an A5 blank canvas and putting the photo on. And so I'm just choosing the Epson E-805 printer, and we want to choose document size A5 for this example, and the paper type will be Epson matte, which suits the sublimation papers. And in more options, we just want to go down and click mirror image, and that's it for the setup. OK to exit the print properties menu. Now, color management is important. So if you've got ICC Profile installed on your computer, you need to click color management in the print window, and I've chosen the Ink Experts Epson L805 profile to go with their style paper. This is the side of the phone case insert that will be printed on, so we'll put this on top of the photo like that, and you can see because of I've added a bit wider and a bit taller, it's called the bleed, so that we can not accidentally have any bits of the insert unprinted. So I wanted to come back to why it's a good idea to buy your printer from a specialist sublimation printer shop, is because they can provide what's called a ICC color profile. But why is that important? Is because these printers are obviously designed to be printing on normal paper with normal inkjet printer ink, so the colors will be set up to work well with that combination. But of course, when we're using dye instead of the ink and on different paper, especially like sublimation paper, if the printer uses the profile for normal ink and normal paper, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to match the sublimation paper and the dye. So what happens with the profile, the color profile, is it's been designed to make sure that the output, the final colors, look right. And sometimes you might find people have problems with their sublimation color is because they're not applying the right color profile and the colors might be off. So I like to have the colors as accurate as possible, so it's worth paying for that printer color profile. And you might notice that the colors look a bit off compared to what you see on screen or the back of your camera or your phone. Now that's not a problem. It's just how sublimation dye looks when it's first printed onto the paper. And then you'll see when we sublimate it onto the panel for the phone case, the colours should come out right. Right, so we're getting closer to the fun part. So usually these sublimation blanks will have a protective cover on the side you sublimate onto. So if you peel that off, and try not to touch it, because if you're anything like me, your hands will have, your fingers will have like oil, just natural, you know, you don't want any grease from your fingers to go on. There's already like a spot on there, so just try and make sure there's nothing on there, because the last thing you want is, and make sure there's nothing on your print, the last thing you want is a little blip, a little blob of white where some bit of dirt has stopped the transfer. So you'll see here, now I've put that on, the backing on. So with the panel in place, you'll see the camera cut out. There's no heads or anything that get chopped off there. So I just aligned the edges nice and straight with the backing, and then, okay, I think that'll be fine. And then you just use the heat-proof tape. I think we're going to need about 3 pieces to stop anything moving around. And one more bit. So something like that. So now that's ready to be pressed. So you need to set up your heat press. So this is a swing away one. You can swing that way and put the panel on there, and we'll just test the pressure. I don't think it has to be particularly high pressure. Actually, make sure you've got your, when you're testing for pressure, make sure you've got your butcher paper on there as well to give the final thickness of what's going to be in the clamp or in the press. Yeah, I don't know, it's a bit, I always find it quite hard to gauge how much pressure, but I wouldn't think it needs to be, I wouldn't think it needs to be a lot. Okay, yeah, that's medium. So I'm going to just take that out. I'll take that out while we heat up the press. So I'll switch it on. And for these, oh, it will help if it's actually switched on at the wall as well. Yeah. So if we press OK, it says 180 degrees. So this is in Celsius. So 180 Celsius, which is what we need. And 100 seconds is too high for this, because it's plastic. You don't want to melt. You don't want to melt it. So 45 seconds at 180 degrees Celsius should be good for this kind of plastic insert. So we'll just let that heat up. All right, so we're up to 180 degrees C now. So I'll swing, oh, whack my speaker. Swing that out of the way. Put that down so that the photo print is facing up and the panel's facing down. And then we put the sheet of butcher paper there. Clamp it down and press go. So it shouldn't take very long at all, 45 seconds. Oh, it's important to make sure you've got good ventilation when you're doing the actual pressing. So I've got window open, because the way sublimation works is the dye is turning into a gas, and then it will transfer over to the panel, and so you will naturally get some of that gas coming out, and it's probably not so good to breathe it in, so it can get a bit stinky. So make sure you've got good ventilation. Okay, so that's done, and lift that up. And then if you like to just use gloves, but I don't think this will be too hot, but I don't want to leave it on too long because you can get issues with over transfer. Oh, that's not enough. So I'm going to try and put that one back in actually and see if I can press it longer. Right, so I'm going to put it back in, maybe for another 45 seconds, let's see. So yeah, there is an element of trial and error when you're pressing to get the pressure right and the time and temperature right. So yeah, sometimes it doesn't turn out right first time. So it's something to bear in mind when you're buying blanks, to have maybe a couple that you're happy to experiment with. Okay, let's see. And with a bit of luck, it's lined up properly. Ooh, so it actually needs a bit longer. So we'll go again. Increase the pressure a little bit. So yeah, in a way it's good to show you what happens if it doesn't quite transfer. Lift it carefully after the press so that you can place it back, and don't be like me and tear the paper. That's not going to help matters. Okay. So we'll whop that down and do one more. Oh my goodness. Still, I wonder, I think that's going to be, because this is acrylic, it's not going to be quite as glossy and as vivid as a metal panel. Should we just do it one more time just for fun? Let's do it one more time just for fun and see what happens. Because I'm so used to sublimating onto, let's turn that on, sublimating onto things like ceramic and metal, where you do get a really great like photo quality finish. Yeah, I think I'm just going to do it one more time, just because I'm curious to see how it's going to turn out. So pop that on. Make sure I've got the right side facing the hot plate. Alright, let's give it one more go. So I might have the issue of ghosting because I've repressed a few times, but I also want to get the best quality image as I can. Whoa. Right, I think that is better. Yeah, I think that's a lot better. So you'll need to play around because, of course, different, your heat press and your dies and your panel for your phone case, they all vary a bit. So yeah, it's more of a matte finish, semi-matte, like a sheen. Okay, so now all we have left to do is to stick the panel onto the case. So just peel the backing paper off the adhesive, and then I think we only get one shot to do this right, see. And then give it a good press down. Make sure it sticks, especially around the edges. Just get your finger in there, press quite firmly. Make sure it's stuck. And there we are. There it is. One phone case. So I hope you found this video useful. You can see the problems that you might face, and I'll leave all that in because sometimes you can salvage your blanks and not have to bin it if you're careful with removing your paper. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them down below. If you found this video helpful, do give it a like. That'd be much appreciated. I'm Alan, so until next time, see you later.